they might have to help someone else work through their resistance, they're feeling stuck, they're not seeing possibilities. So one of the things that, you and I had previously discussed, it doesn't even have to be in a, quote, leadership position, but anytime you find yourself in a conversation and the person just can't see their way through to finding a solution, that these are the techniques that you can use to help them to see beyond their blocks, to see new possibilities so they find a way forward.
So what you call the discomfort zone is the place where if I'm in the leader seat where I'm coming up against some sort of block or resistance. Okay. And so can you talk to me? So it seems, pretty it seems pretty common, that we all know what feelings are. We all know what emotions are. We're emotional by nature, right? But why are we so fearful? Why are we so afraid of allowing ourselves to express those emotions?
Right. And have we not been dealing with this whole situation since the ancient Greeks? It's an interesting reaction that happens in the brain. As soon as one person gets emotional, how we tend to react. So it's not a thought-out process. And that's the problem. I mean, if you think through it, generally you can figure out how to stay present. But when one person has a reaction, emotions have energy. And so if you're angry, even if you're angry with someone else, not me, I'm going to feel your anger, and I'm going to take that in. And then if I don't like feeling angry, then I'm going to be uncomfortable. So it's like this loop, this contagion that's created. So instead of going into a conversation where I know you're going to have an emotion, then I'm going to feel it, I would just prefer to avoid it. So we first off, we avoid those situations that make us feel uncomfortable. It's like we don't want to feel that way. The brain wants status quo. It doesn't want discomfort, even though in the moment of discomfort is the place we're most open to learn, to have insights, to see possibilities. We still avoid those situations like crazy. And even if we go into them and we know that somebody's feeling badly or they're angry or frustrated, then we have this great need that, I must fix them or I must find a solution for them, instead of just allowing them to have their experience, and let them to talk about it. We constantly feel this urge to jump in and, solve their problem, which is usually not what the person needs. So we either avoid it or then we jump into it and then try to make it go away instead of just being present to it.
And either way, we're really kind of discounting the other person and their experience.
Right. So, which then makes them feel, badly or more embarrassed for having the emotion in the first place. You're absolutely right.
So how do you work with leaders? You said, at the top of the conversation, you talked about your coaching work. And as a coach, a lot of people use the term these days, coaching, but I know that you know what you're talking about.
Thank you.
You have a lot of experience and really deep expertise in this area. So can you tell us first of all, just give us the thumbnail idea of what you mean by coaching, and then how do you work with someone, with a leader who is really stuck and they can't, they just can't see their way out?
Yeah. Thank you, Gloria, for asking me for that definition, because I'm a real stickler that I differentiate giving advice and telling people what to do with coaching technique. I see coaching really as it's a reflective inquiry process, but simply if you and I were in a conversation, some of the best things I can do is just to reflect back to you what you're saying to me. So I might summarize what you're saying and really, try to get to the essence, the core of your message. And then I might share with you, like, when your emotions shift, like that really seems to make you angry, or you seem to be really disappointed with these people. So I'm just sharing back to you what you're giving to me, and then I'm curious about it. So how do you know that to be true, or what is it that you think is causing you to feel that way? So it's the intention of coaching is to help. So like if I'm in conversation with you, you're a fully whole, creative, intelligent being. So I'm just there to help you think through your process, because it's difficult for you to do it yourself when you're wrapped up in an emotion. And the better that we can help each other to think more broadly, the more we actually help each other, like expand and grow on our own without, you jumping in and trying to fix me, or I'm giving you solutions. We're helping each other think in a much bigger, broader way.
So if I'm working with you as a leader, Marcia, that's really a helpful definition. And I'm in my place of discomfort with I don't know, let's just say with one of my peers, one of my team members. Are you? Can you? What are you? Can you describe for me and for our listeners, like, what's happening? Are you working with me in the moment, or are you working with me kind of off stage, behind closed doors, outside of that discomfort arena? Can you paint a little picture for us here?
Yeah. I mean, most of the time when I work with leaders or anybody that I'm coaching, it's a one-on-one situation. I have done group coaching, like I'll teach a class, and then we might, a month or two later get together and just talk about, so what are your blocks? And I might coach someone, within the group, because they all have the experience together. And so coaching one person is going to help them all. But sometimes, I am coaching people in front of a big group because I'm teaching and, it's a demonstration. But they've usually, they've agreed to that. So it's, because usually these are difficult situations and it's very private, unless they agree to be in front of a group. But so let's say you and I were just having a conversation and you said, well, I'm having a difficult time with this, with one of my employees, and, I know I have to have this conversation, but it's going to be so hard because I know that she's going to react defensively, and so you go through this whole scenario that you've created in your head. and what I would first start doing was saying, okay, so you've created this scenario, how do you know she's going to act that way? What gives you that indication? What's happened up to this point? Why would this be a surprise? Or is it a surprise? What is it you're really afraid of? And what's really fascinating, Gloria, is almost every time I have a coaching session with a leader who's avoiding a difficult conversation, underneath what they're really avoiding is that they feel if they have to have this conversation, then that means there's something wrong with them. They must be a bad leader if the employee has done something wrong or isn't performing. And it's so interesting because once we get to that, and it doesn't take that much, and this isn't therapy, it's just asking, and saying, wow, you seem like a little worried or disappointed, just reflecting what's happening in the moment. And I'll even say, do you really think you've done everything you could to this point? And they'll say, yes, I have. And I'll say, so why is this difficult for you? And it's almost always they come to say, well, I'm afraid that they're going to judge me and that I've been a bad leader.
Yeah, and, so it's like it seems like that fear factor really is a common denominator.
Yeah, it's more that fear of how they will be judged instead of how the person will react. And so once we put that on the table, and you know how fear is, once you sit it on the table and you look at it and it becomes real, then you can see that it's not that big a deal, or you know automatically what it is you need to do.
Yeah, someone once told me that fear, they treated it like an acronym, like fear.a.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah.
And basically,
did they have an acronym for it?
Yeah, and they said it's false expectations appearing real.
Right.
So
but that's the point. Yeah, isn't it? It's like we create this huge thing in our head without even, one of my best coaching questions is, what's the worst case scenario? And how likely is that to happen? Yes. And usually, right, the worst case scenario is not going to happen.
Yeah, we just blow it up all out of proportion, like you said.
Right.
So Marcia, what does it take for your clients, for the leaders that you work with, to feel, to feel like they can disclose and to be open with you? What does it take for them to feel safe with you, to really fully express themselves, their feelings, their thoughts?
Yeah.
What is it that what's the secret sauce here?
There's actually 3 things that in the secret sauce that when I'm working with leaders, I say before you go into any conversation, you have to ask yourself about these 3 things. The first one you have to look at, what's the goal of the conversation? And is it a goal that means something to the person? Because if it's just you're just annoyed with them, then, they're not going to have this conversation with you. I mean, even if you think about, like, with children, if you're just annoyed with them but there's nothing in it for them, then they're not going to listen to you. So you have to find something that's meaningful for the person, that you're there to help them achieve. You're there to help them be a better leader, or for them to be more admired by their peers or their friends, or just to have maybe more peace in their life. So first you have to think, what is it that would be meaningful for this person to have this conversation with me? So that's the first step. Then the second step is you have to really look inside yourself and say, what am I feeling at this moment? Because if you go into any conversation and you're annoyed or irritated or disappointed with someone, they're going to sense that energy, and probably they'll either get defensive or they'll shut down before you even say anything. So you really have to check yourself and say, can I shift to being hopeful? Can I shift to compassion, to caring about this person? And if you can't, then you need to start the conversation by saying, you've broke so many promises that I'm having a hard time getting over being disappointed with you. So, don't fake it. I mean, some people think they're so good at faking emotions, but emotions is energy. And so, you can't fake that. It comes from inside of you out. So you got to shift your tone, your emotional tone, and know that when you go in, that it's the tone you want to set for the conversation. And then the third step is related. You have to ask yourself, can I, believe in this person's potential, to solve this problem? And so, having a little bit of respect. I mean, even if you're angry with somebody, you can still respect them. And, we know this from our personal relationships. When we lose respect with our partners, it's really hard to overcome that. That's like a driving factor in relationship success, is that we still have to have, a high regard for each other and believe in, that this person you're talking to can achieve, can do better, even if they're, resisting it right now. You have to believe in them, and just the belief, Gloria, how many movies are built on, the bad kid, and then all of a sudden somebody believes in them and they turn, and it's true. It's like just having that belief in somebody. It's like, I know you can do better, just means so much, in helping people to work through their blocks. So the 3 things are, making sure that you know why this conversation would be important to the person, setting the right emotional tone going in, and then remembering that you believe in this person's potential for doing, for being better, for doing more.
So thank you. That's really helpful, Marcia. And, so it sounds like this is how you work with your clients, your leaders, and it also seems like a framework that they could use to work for their own breakthrough in their own
Absolutely.
work. Oh, is that